Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected, and we are live on Rockfin. Just doing a one-day, as I stated yesterday, a one-day live on Rockfin kind of thing today. Not to fear, YouTubers. We will be back tomorrow on YouTube, live at 11 a.m. Hello, Jacob Gordon. What's going on? We have 5 watching. Just gonna kind of wait till people get into the stream because there isn't kind of an early setup on Rockfin. It takes a little while, to get the stream going, for people to get in the stream, etc. Urban Hermit, what's going on? How are you? Welcome. Yeah. Irk1 says, hey you, or hey yo, whichever way you want to say it. We'll see if we have a big crowd today. I don't know. We got 7 watching right now. 8 watching right now. Hopefully, what would be really great is if we can we're getting close to 20 people during the regular Rockfin streams daily. Getting close to 20. So if we got up to like 30 today, I'd be pretty happy. If we got up to 50, I'd be super happy. Maybe we can get 50 people. Judy Truitt, Jacob Gordon, Ryan Gorman, Osama. What's going on, Osama? I have to tell you, it's a heck of a lot easier just streaming to one platform at a time. Like, seriously. It's a little bit, trying to do YouTube and Rockfin at the same time is pretty, it can be a little bit frenetic and a little bit weird. It's just a lot to keep going. So I'm enjoying having one stream to pay attention to right now. And anyways, I'm going to get into it. Let's see. I'm going to start with this good tweet from TCR. The planet of the humans. And the cows, pigs, and chickens they consume. And this is a retweet of something that was put out by Population Matters. They say, this is not what a healthy, biodiverse planet should look like. Let's restore the balance and give other species a chance of survival or for survival. I know that people really like to just say that we've debunked the whole population thing, or, oh, how can you talk about population? Oh, and I understand that the reasons why people get so upset about talking about population. Many people think that when you start talking about population, that means, bad things for indigenous communities or people of color. And that's not what, that doesn't have to be so. But population does matter. And this is just pointing out, the thing is, all the social implications, the bad, negative implications of talking about population aside, actually, it doesn't really matter, because the numbers are the numbers. It's just the numbers are the numbers. And so it does, all the social implications, or all the social, I guess, what would you call it? The hesitancy to talk about population for whatever reason, the reason why people don't want to go into it or go down the road, or are upset when you start saying it. All those reasons have nothing to do with the fact that it's just facts. It's just numbers, right? It's just numbers. If you overshoot if you outgrow your resources, what happens is nature will cull the herd. You know, you will reach a point at which you cannot. There are not enough resources to feed or clothe or house or, you know, and of course there are all kinds of things going on in capitalism, which is, you know, locking up the food and people with lots of wealth and lots of power having all the resources, and of course all of that is relevant, right? The people without money or without access to resources or without any political power, they have very little, and they're, you know, obviously the ones that generally don't have anything anyways, even when we're not talking about the Anthropocene or the sixth mass extinction. But let's look at this just a little bit closer, and this is why population does matter. And maybe we can go one step further and just call this the result of capitalism. So, the result of capitalism, or the result of mechanizing and being able to, you know, give everybody easy access to all these resources and mechanizing our agriculture, have made it so that we can have almost 8 billion people on the planet consuming all the Earth's worth of resources. But 36% of all mammals today are humans, 60% are livestock, 70% of birds are poultry, 30% are wild, 4% of mammals are wild. And that percentage is going to go down as this tries to go up. But eventually, all these populations are going to go down because we have completely ravaged and destroyed the planet and the carrying capacity of the planet and the ability of the planet to maintain a healthy ecological system in which we can keep people alive. But again, one more thing to say about this is it's not just population. So if you want to just talk about population, yes, it's huge. It's a big thing. But another part of the equation is economics, consumerism. There is a very small percentage of the population of the planet that consumes all the resources. And so that is very true too. We have 14 watching. Irk One says, cull of the wild. Well, we've culled the wild. And now, soon we will face the culling of the not so wild. Scott Andrews is here. What's going on? Raza Eco Warrior is here. What's going on? Raza says, I'm not going down, Kevin. No way. Just really, you got to try and try, Raza. You got to try and try. Judy Truitt says rain was predicted, but no rain. Also here, rain was predicted here. No rain. So I feel you, Judy Truitt. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you all watching me watch you? That's what's happening. That's what's happening. My bad. We got 15, but that's fine because you guys get to see who I'm talking to on the screen there. John Gladkowski, good to see you. Welcome. Welcome. All right. And we're going to move on. Good tweet from Howard Breen. For young Californians, climate change is a mental health crisis too. Let's look at this a little bit. This is from medicalexpress.com. For young Californians, climate change is a mental health crisis too. This is from December 29th. Just a little while ago, Maddie Cole in 8th grade stopped running cross country. She'd competed the year before, but the air quality in her native Sacramento, California was so bad that she got sick during a race. She soon learned she had asthma. The next year, the sky above Sacramento turned gray with smoke from the 2018 campfire. Maddie and her classmates went to school with masks on. It felt, she said, like a futuristic apocalypse. The situation has only worsened as wildfires and their devastation have become so routine that she and her classmates are just used to it, said Maddie, now 16 and a junior. This fall it was like, yeah, California's on fire again, and it's that time of year. Neither the polluted air nor the wildfires punctuating Maddie's adolescence are random. Both are being exacerbated by climate change, and the future they portend has left Maddie feeling helpless, anxious, and scared. Climate anxiety and other mental health struggles are rampant among Maddie's generation, according to experts who warn that young Californians are growing up in the shadow of looming catastrophe and dealing with the emotional and psychological fallout that comes with it. The scope of the problem is enormous. The Earth's temperature has skyrocketed since the industrial age, fueled by human activity and accompanying greenhouse gas emissions. Dramatic reductions in those emissions and in fossil fuel use will be necessary to prevent temperatures from reaching a tipping point by 2030. That's what the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change warned 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Well, luckily for us, coronavirus came along and helped us reduce emissions, the most we have ever reduced emissions, and the most that we probably will reduce emissions unless something really extraordinary happens. Without reducing those emissions, climate change will make natural and national disasters, food shortages, and rising sea levels even worse. Experts say the world is not yet on track to make the changes necessary to ameliorate its worst effects. The world is not yet on track. I think I just said that. Such dire predictions can affect mental health, particularly among young people. Polls have found that climate change-related stress affects daily life for 47% of America's young adults. Over half of teenagers feel afraid and angry about climate change, and 72% of young adults are concerned that it will harm their community. Climate depression played a central role in teenage activist Greta Thunberg's political awakening. Hey, sounds like being super depressed and afraid of something might encourage you to do something about it. You bad old doomers, you. And according to Varshini Prakash, executive director of youth-focused climate activism group, the Sunrise Movement, it's not uncommon for her group to meet kids who have contemplated suicide over the climate crisis. Surveys have found that young people often experience more fear, sadness, and anger regarding climate change than their older counterparts. As well as an increased sense of helplessness or hopelessness, said Hasini Samji, an assistant professor at Simon Fraser University who has explored the mental toll of climate change on young people in an email. In particular, areas that suffer direct visible effects of climate change have been observed to face acute impacts such as trauma, shock, and PTSD. Young Los Angeles residents describe similar emotions and mental stress when contemplating the climate crisis. Kate Shapiro, 15, said humanity's selfishness, greed, and lack of foresight about the warming planet contributes to her depression. Sounds pretty doomy, Kate Shapiro. Sarah Allen, 25, said she shudders in real terror when contemplating the plight of future generations. And, Sam Jackson, 29, said the enormity of the problem leaves him feeling exhausted. To cope, many have become activists or taken steps to reduce their own effect on the planet. Some go vegetarian or vegan. Others have opted not to buy a car, even in the car-centric Los Angeles. or are making plans to leave Los Angeles before the fires and droughts become unbearable. And a few said the looming environmental disaster has discouraged them from having children. As I've gotten to learn more about how much or how disproportionate an impact an additional American has, I'm less and less inclined to create a new person, said Elliot Lee, 26, of Los Angeles. Yeah. And then there's that. Others are throwing themselves into climate activism as a way to deal with the stress. Lifestyle changes empower individuals to feel like they can act, said Abby Austin, 23, the political lead. Excuse me. Jesus. Sorry, guys. I'm a little annoyed at my own self. The political lead for the Sunrise Movement's LA branch, echoing medical professionals who say that even small personal actions can help people feel like broader change remains possible. Getting involved with activism can serve a similar function. Many young Californians said volunteering with climate advocacy groups, such as the Sunrise Movement, or for politicians who have made climate change a central plank in their platforms, has given them a sense of purpose. A lot of people who are in Sunrise, Austin said, are literally organizing out of climate anxiety. Well, well then. All right, we've got 18 watching. Let's get to 20. Let's get to 20 watching today. Snake 1974 says, hi, Rockfinners. Scott Andrews, when I grew up in Southern California, you didn't need air conditioning. Impossible now. Yeah, it's pretty hard. Actually, I don't use air conditioning myself. Snake, tip $2. Thank you so much, Snake, for the super Ray, super chat. I don't use air conditioning, but it is, on some days really hot. But what I try to do is the reason why I do that is I try to get myself used to living in a much warmer climate. And actually, if you don't use air conditioning, your body just kind of starts to adjust, right? The more you use air conditioning, the less your body is going to be able to adjust to actually being hot. So I suggest not using air conditioning as much as possible so that you won't just expire very quickly when it's too hot. Jay Thadcast, great to see you in the chat. We have 20 watching on Rockfan. Hoo-hoo. Way to be, guys. Way to go. I'm not really quite sure why I'm so coffee and hacky today, but I just am. It is what it is. Anyways, let's go on to this from Climate Watcher. Diesel is a weapon of mass death. 50% of transport pollution deaths linked to diesel. 400,000 people worldwide died prematurely in 2015 from air pollution from vehicle exhaust emissions, a U.S. study found, singled out diesel as the main culprit. Let's look at this. This is from phys.org. Oh, that's not it. Where is my... Here it is. From phys.org, February 27th, 2019, nearly 50% of transport pollution deaths linked to diesel. Some 385,000 people worldwide died prematurely in 2015 from air pollution caused by vehicle exhaust emissions, a U.S. study found Wednesday, which singled out diesel engines as the main culprit. Diesel vehicles were responsible for 47% of the deaths, it said, but the figure jumped as high as 66% in France. Wow. As high as 66% in France, Germany, Italy, and India, where diesels make up a large proportion of cars on the road. They're stinkers, aren't they? The study was carried out by the researchers from the International Council on Clean Transportation, the non-governmental group that blew the whistle on Volkswagen's Dieselgate emissions cheating scandal in 2015, and 2 U.S. universities. The high public health burden of diesel vehicles in Europe underscores the need for world-class emission standards to be accompanied by robust compliance and enforcement, said ICCT co-author Joshua Miller, calling for urgent action to replace high emissions vehicles. Yeah. Or maybe just take them off the road. In the wide-ranging study, figure out how to take them off the road and then figure out how to live without them. That's taking it, one step further, and that's exactly how we need to think in the face of climate change. Just my suggestion. In the wide-ranging study, researchers looked at the emissions from diesel and non-diesel cars, trucks, buses, the shipping industry, as well as agriculture and construction machinery, and their impact on our health. They found that the global transportation sector was responsible for 11% of the 3.4 million premature deaths annually attributed to pollution from fine particles, PM 2.5, and ground-level ozone exposure. The cost of the health burden caused by transport pollution, which has been linked to lung and heart diseases, strokes, and diabetes, added up to $1 trillion in 2015. Must be a little bit more now, wouldn't you think? In China alone, some 114,000 people were killed by vehicle exhausts that year, but that still only accounted for just over 10% of all deaths linked to air pollution there. The United States saw 22,000 deaths from transport pollution, of which 43% were linked to diesels. Wow, I wonder how they conduct these, how do they pinpoint that people died of transport pollution, I wonder? I mean, maybe a naive question, but, does anybody have any insight on that? I guess they're attributing it to heart disease, heart disease or lung disease, based on like where you live or where you work. India, meanwhile, recorded 74,000 premature deaths from vehicle exhausts, compared with 13,000 in Germany, 7,800 in Italy, and 6,400 in France. Relatively speaking, however, the picture was worst in Germany, with 17 premature deaths blamed on transport pollution per 100,000 residents, 3 times higher than the global average. Good Lord. Milan, Turin, Stuttgart, Kiev, Cologne, Berlin, and London were among the deadliest cities in terms of transport pollution, the researchers noted. No Los Angeles in there. Interesting. I'm sure Los Angeles, comes up somewhere close to that list. The authors cautioned that their estimates were conservative, as their study did not take into account all types of harmful emissions or pollution-linked diseases. Interesting. Yeah, again, I wonder how do you figure out deaths just directly attributable to pollution? I wonder. Consideration of these impacts would likely increase the estimate of health impacts from vehicle exhaust emissions, they warned. Yeah, guys, guess what? Driving cars and breathing the exhaust is really deadly. Super deadly. That's why I hate four-wheel drive trucks, and I hate big ass diesel trucks. I can't deal. Hold on, I'm trying to read some of these chats. Hold on. Wow, Mashi says, why isn't Uganda on that list? Nothing but diesel there. Raza says, so cologne doesn't smell good? That's pretty funny. Good one, Raza. Good one. J Thadcast says, pollutant percent in the air based on disease morbidity. I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, do people actually just run to the hospital? Like, I breathed in too much, you know, do people go to the hospital with lung failure or system failure from breathing in pollution? I don't know. Poppy Davis says, don't visit Texas, Kevin. Yeah, I know. I actually used to visit Texas all the time, Poppy. I used to drive through Texas all the time. And that's where I developed a really good hatred of four-wheel drives, especially white Ford F-150s. Trucks galore, indeed, I know. I know that people just have to drive trucks for work. You know, I know there are people that watch this channel that drive trucks because they have to work. I understand, but still, I have a deep-seated hatred. And don't get me wrong, I hate 18-wheelers with equal ferocity. Guau Mashi says, back in the 80s, they said diesel was less toxic. Anyone standing behind a bus knows better, right? Scott Andrews, my breathing got better when I moved from Southern California to Arizona. Perhaps. Raza says, Houston, you are the problem. You're on a roll today, Raza. I really like that. Okay. Jay Thadcast, you can see lung damage from breathing city air versus country. Sure. Excuse me. Maybe I've got some pollution damage. Bobby Davis, right. That's funny. We got 20 watching. Let's hope we get a couple more before the end of this video. Or let's try. Never fear, YouTubers. I will be back tomorrow live streaming on YouTube at 11 a.m. Just doing a little Rockfin exclusive today, right now. Hold on. Let's move on. Oh, geez. Are you telling me that other machines that humans use quite often, especially in the industrialized nations, are you telling me that these are also extremely polluting? Yes, I am. This is from PFD Earth. Lawnmower market trends and growth analysis. So they lawnmowers pollute more than cars, and usage continues to increase. So basically, this is saying that the global lawnmower market is growing. Here's a link to an EPA.gov site, national emissions from lawn and garden equipment. Excuse me. The contribution of gasoline-powered lawn and garden equipment to air pollutant emissions in the United States has not been extensively studied. However, they did a study. In 2011, approximately 26.7 million tons of pollutants were emitted by these equipment. Hold on. I'm trying not to lose my place here. Aggregate and equipment-specific emissions were calculated and compared with emissions from all gasoline-fueled non-road equipment. Let's see. Gasoline-powered landscape maintenance equipment accounted for 43% of VOCs, or volatile organic compounds, and around 50% of fine particulates, or PMs. Two-stroke engines were responsible for a vast majority of fine PM from this equipment. basically they're just saying, not good. Not good. You know, if you ever stood behind a leaf blower, you know, that's also delicious, right? Judy Truitt, need to mention generators as well? Yeah, sure. Jay Thadcast says, you all use electric mowers where you are? Okay. You guys are the progressive gardeners. Neighborhood sheep, Flox's lawnmowers. Yeah, well, all the gardeners around here you don't use electric equipment. They all use the old two-stroke gasoline-powered pollution emitters. 21 watching. We cracked 20. Jay Thadcast, the daily cruise of Chicago North Shore is mostly noise pollution. Sure. 22 watching. All right. We're gaining. We're gaining, guys. Rockfin is jumpy. Yeah, generally Rockfin is jumpy. That's okay. I wanted to do this to just kind of get more people in the flow of watching on Rockfin, because I probably will be doing more of this in the future, and just, you know, kind of just get used to how Rockfin works. They are working on upping the game, my friends, so that we can all be friends on Rockfin. Okay, lastly today I want to cover this, the largest dam removal in U.S. history. The reason why I want to cover this is something that should be happening all over the planet and in haste, in great haste. Dam removal, right? While everybody is touting hydropower as renewable energy, it is a environment destroyer. Dams just absolutely wreak havoc on environments. They are not good for the environment. They are not good at all. They are high in damage, and then also the construction of the dams generally entails a lot of emissions. So there's that. For over a century, one of the most important salmon runs in the United States has had to contend with historic dams. And now 4 of them are set to be taken down. This is good news. This is from November 10th, 2020. My great uncle and my grandma and my great grandparents and I'm sure their great grandparents, they were all fishermen. That's just what they did. They fished, and it was out of necessity to support their families. And it's because that's what we've always done, and we've never known another life. This is Amy Cordalis, the general counsel of the Yurok and a member of California's largest indigenous tribe. It's hard to overstate how important this livelihood has been to the Yurok people who have lived for millennia in rural Northern California, and yet this livelihood has been diminishing for decades after the Klamath River, which flows through the tribe's territory, was dammed for hydroelectricity. But now, after years of painstaking negotiations, the fortunes of the Yurok could be set to change, with the largest dam removal project in U.S. history given the green light. Although she grew up in Ashland, Oregon, Cordalis would often visit Requa, I don't know how to pronounce that, a tiny village near the mouth of the Klamath River in Northern California, to see family, attend tribal ceremonies, and to fish. Her father, the ultimate Yurok fisherman, had 4 daughters and a son, and he taught them all to fish. When I was growing up, there were still decent salmon runs, she recalled. On good nights, you could catch 100, 200 fish, and we loved it. That's when you felt like you were being your best Yurok self. You were doing what the Creator made you for. You were going to be able to fill up your smokehouse and your freezer, not only just yours, but your grandmas, your aunties, your cousins, all the people you cared about. You can give them fish so they had food. The money from selling fish they didn't need would provide money for the children's school clothes, a fridge, or a second-hand car, Cordalis said. In short, fishing was a valuable income on a reservation where the median income is only $11,000 a year. Today, the fishing experience is very different, she says. Drawing upon all the techniques and skills passed down over generations is of little use, because when she goes down to the river with her own 3 boys, there are no fish to be caught. It's like the crumbling of the way that we live. It's the crumbling of the way we teach our kids, said Cordalis. It's the crumbling of how we interact with that natural environment, because there's no fish. Anytime you put a dam on a river, it always has profound effect. It chops the river into 2 pieces. Research bears this out. The Klamath River, once home to the 3rd largest salmon run, the migration of adult salmon upstream to spawn in the continental United States, now has runs at a fraction of their original numbers. One of the 5 Pacific salmon species, the spring run Chinook salmon, which historically numbered in the hundreds of thousands, has almost entirely been wiped out. The run consisted of fewer than 700 fish last year. Wow. Another species, the coho salmon, which grows typically to between 24 to 30 inches and can weigh over 11 pounds in adulthood, has been designated threatened under the U.S. Endangered Species Act. The dams built on the Klamath River have been identified as one cause of the drop in salmon numbers. I'm sure the other one is warmer waters. 8 dams were built on the river between the early 1900s and 1962 to produce hydroelectric power. The presence of dams has been linked to marked changes in salmon populations on the Klamath and elsewhere. Anytime you put a dam on a river, it always has profound effects. It chops a river into 2 pieces, explains the Yurok tribe's senior fisheries biologist, Michael Belchik, a tribal member who has decades of experience in fish restoration. Rivers carry a lot more than just water. The water goes down river, fish move up river, but not only that, there's nutrients, sediments, and other organisms. Without flowing sediment, the river below the dams then becomes starved of it, leaving only larger rocks on the river bottom. These rocks are ideal for bristleworms, also known as polychaete worms, to cling onto. Normally, the mobile bed of the river prevents colonies of these filter-feeding worms from taking over every square inch of the bottom of the river, says Belchik, but now these worms have taken over everything. Although not harmful in and of themselves, the worms are secondary host for C. shasta, a parasite to which juvenile Chinook salmon have proven particularly vulnerable. Belchik says that the Klamath's lowest dam, Iron Gate, has created overcrowded conditions that are ripe for the spread of C. shasta. The salmon that don't go into the hatchery, a man-made spawning facility, spawn just below the dam. The many juvenile salmon that then gather closely here are prone to picking up the parasite. The solution that Yurok and a coalition of other tribes and environmental organizations have long advocated for is the removal of the lower 4 of the 8 dams on the Klamath. After painstaking negotiations, this led to the signing of an agreement between Pacific Corp, which operates the dams, and 40 other signatories, including tribes and state governments, in 2010. That was a while ago. The simultaneous removal of that, 10 years ago, the simultaneous removal of the 4 dams with a combined height of 411 feet makes it the largest dam removal project in America's history, according to the Klamath River Renewal Corporation, the nonprofit tasked with overseeing the dam removals. It is also set to be the most expensive, at a cost of almost $450 million. The result will be 400 stream miles of restored habitat for salmon and other migratory species, like the steelhead trout and the Pacific lamprey. Opening up previously inaccessible spawning grounds will allow for greater genetic diversity and less crowding, said Belchik, which reduces the risk of disease transmission. With over 1,700 dams removed in the U.S., including 90 last year, according to America's Rivers database, there is a growing list of examples illustrating the benefits to ecosystems, especially for imperiled fish populations. The removal of 2 smaller dams and fish passage improvements on the Penobscot River in Maine, which were completed in 2016, have restored 2,000 miles of habitat for Atlantic salmon and other species. This is great. This is great. Remove the dams. To remove dams as large as those on the Klamath River will be a complex operation. In the Klamath River Renewal Corporation's plan for the removals, it will start with drawing down the water levels behind each dam wall. Demolition comes next, largely through drilling and blasting, with trucks removing the rubble. You know, more emissions, by the way. So use a lot of emissions to build them, and then we're going to use a lot of emissions to tear them down. That's got to be good for the economy, right? On some level. And by good, I mean, who cares? The dam removals were slated for 2022, so they have not happened yet. Though with negotiations still ongoing between the company, the tribes, and the stakeholders, the date is still unconfirmed. So 10 years later, and they still don't have a confirmed date. Lovely. That is frustrating. Anyways, we're getting very close. They say, Cordalis says. Anyways, update on November 17th, 2020, a new agreement was signed with Pacific Corp, the UROC, and other stakeholders to facilitate the dam's removals. Should federal regulators approve, the project will begin in 2022, with the demolition slated for 2023. That can't come soon enough. Judy Truitt said, my grandfather took me on a trip to see the Glen Canyon Dam when it was built. He thought it was wonderful. Well, yeah, if you're into that kind of thing, I guess it could be wonderful. All right. Guys, we have reached the end of my time. Thank you all for hanging out with me. Robert Lloyd was here. Hey to Robert Lloyd. Robert Arajo, what's up? Well, we have 25 watching right now. This is great. Even though I'm about to end, we got to 25. That's a good number, guys. And actually, because I forgot to record this live stream, which I just realized, contemplative pragmatist. Jesus Christ. Contemplative pragmatist. I can't even say your name. Hello, guy. Hello, everyone. And contemplative pragmatist. I'm having really lots of difficulties today. Because I forgot to record this live stream, nobody's going to be able to watch it on YouTube because everybody's going to have to come here to watch it. So, I will be back on YouTube tomorrow, guys. Yes, tomorrow is inauguration day. I don't even know what time the inauguration is happening as far as, I mean, I don't really, if I happen to run up against the inauguration, it's not really going to matter one way or the other to me. What is the time of the inauguration? Let's look at this. Looks like 9 a.m. Pacific time, so I think we're fine. I don't think it'll be still going on at 11 a.m. Pacific time, so should be over by then. Kevin Chanholzer says, I just got here. Please start over. Sorry about that, Kevin Chanholzer. Anyways, guys, thank you all for hanging out with me. J.A. Moniker was here. What's up? had a lot of people come through the live stream today. And again, everybody's going to have to watch this video on Rockfin anyways. If anybody can give everybody else the heads up. But I will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Rockfin and YouTube. And thank you all for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. Until next time, peace.